Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us on talking about e-commerce for distributors and basically what the latest trends and strategies that you should try to um, use to accomplish what you need to in order to gain and increase revenue as well as market share. So a little bit about the agenda today. We're going to go through a introduction of myself and also some housekeeping pieces. We'll talk about the trends that we see within the industry, as well as spend a little time around e-commerce strategy, talk about some barriers to those strategies, more along the line of barriers to those strategies and what you should look out for rather than just talking about the strategy overall. We'll also talk about who Applicor is. And then I always like to end a webcast with a takeaway, just a simple nugget that if all else fails and you forget everything else, remember this one piece. So let's get started. A little bit about myself is my name is Sanjay Jenthker. I'm director of marketing over here at Applecor. Been in ERP for the last 20 years now, so have been around for a long time. Have seen many multiple versions of ERP, and have spent the gamut of my time through support, sales, marketing. So I feel like I understand where a lot of people come, especially within the distribution space and also on e-commerce side. So enough about myself. Well, let's talk about some housekeeping pieces. You are on mute. Keep that in mind. So make sure if you have any questions, put it into the chat window or the question window, and we'll answer those questions at the end as time permits. If we can't get to your question by the end of the session, we will email you and let you know what what those answers are to those questions. Feel free to follow up with us as well. I'll give you some contact info out there at the end of the session so you can reach us as well. So enough about the housekeeping and the introduction. Let's talk about the market itself first before we start getting into trends. And um, and this came from Forrester Research. So a little study that they had done back in 2013, 2014. They went back and did some research on the business to consumer side. Let's talk about that first, the B2C sales. What they noticed was that from 2013 to 2018, their research basically confirmed that they're seeing a compounded annual growth rate of 9.5%, and that equated to basically um, sales going from back in 2013 of 263 billion to 2018, sales going up to $414 billion. So that's a huge shift, and a lot of it they attributed back to mobile sales. So I can tell you, I spend a lot of time on my mobile device and buy things left and right. So definitely spend a lot of time doing that, as well as the other thing that was noticeable out there was that um, the millennials are now starting to come into play and having that purchase power. So the Gen X moving off to and then Gen Y coming into play, and the fact is that this is what they know. They understand e-commerce, they understand mobile device sales, and they understand purchasing on mobile devices, and they spend a lot more on that. But enough about B2C or business consumer. You're here to talk about business to business. And business to business, that same Forrester research was done, and they found that from 2014, which had an annual sales on B2B e-commerce of 305 billion to 1.1 trillion in 2020. And that's a huge jump. Even though the compounded annual growth rate is 7.7, they went out to a longer term just to be able to see where that $1 trillion mark was going to hit, and that's a lot. And the difference here is, and the reason for that exponential growth that they're seeing is two things. One is channel shifting, and when you take channel shifting, it's basically the avenues to buy have changed. So now what's happening, whereas traditionally vendors, customers of vendors would go to them and call them up, place an order, fax them, email them, sales rep might go out to the business and place the order that way. a lot of it is moving off to the e-commerce side now. So even in B2B sales, we're seeing that trend where people are now going onto a purchasing site or an e-commerce site and buying their business needs, whether it be material, raw material for what they need, or a component part that they need to purchase to build out even their services or goods or services that they're seeing. So that trend is that channel shift is happening as we speak. In addition to that, self-service portals are becoming more and more important, not only just on the customer side, but on the supplier side as well. The ability to view not just your orders that you're placing, but order history, payment history, and also make payments on there is just it's making life easier for businesses to be able to manage and maintain that themselves, as well as the businesses that provide those services are seeing a return on investment in the e-commerce side. So those are the reasons why the growth is happening. And this is definitely a market that if you're not in yet, you need to make a strategy and develop and build that out because your customers are going to demand that. So let's talk about trends and what trends that we're seeing, not just in the e-commerce space, but overall, what kind of trends are we seeing that affect e-commerce? And the first one that I'm going to bring up is price optimization. And price optimization is very important in not only the sense of being able to sit there and go, okay, you know what, we're going to optimize the price based off of a particular customer or a particular region out there, because that's what's demand is causing, which basically comes back to quantifiable results of 2 to 4% revenue increase. But it also is even affected even more now with the technology that occurs, that big data machine learning. So now instead of just being able to say, okay, based off of a region, based off of a customer class or a customer, here's the price optimizations that need to occur. Now we're seeing prices being affected by demand, by weather, by holidays, by a presidential election. It can affect pricing, and you're learning that, and that big data crunching is helping to learn that and affect that price. If you look at Uber, they're the masters at it right now. They're using surge-based pricing, so they're demand-based. So as that demand ramps up, they know that they can charge more and more, which, yeah, as a consumer, you feel like, oh yeah, I'm getting shafted by it. But at the end of the day, you're also being able to get that lower price when there isn't as much demand. So you're seeing that price optimization occur, and that's affecting people, and that's a quantifiable result that you can see out there. In addition to big data and machine learning, where we're seeing this trend really affect is in the CPQ guided sales. And what we talk about when we say CPQ is configure, price, and quote. Configure, price, and quote, I equate that to Dell. Right, that's the easiest way to represent that. Desktop, I might put in different type of RAM, different type of hard drives, different types of video cards, and configure that, and then get a price for it, and then say, okay, I need 5 of those. So quote it out for me in my B2B sales. Well, what we're seeing in price optimization is the ability to say, okay, well, if a customer puts in a certain type of RAM or a certain quantity of RAM or a certain quantity of a hard drive, price it this way or price other components of it in certain ways that optimizes not only the sale, but optimizes the revenue that can occur. So that's where CPQ guided sales are seeing this price optimization trend help out a lot. Another trend that we're seeing out there is marketplace integrations. And when we talk about marketplace integrations, we're talking about Amazon.com, Jet.com, the new one in the space, eBay, or even the traditional brick and mortars are getting into this. The Walmart, the Targets of the world are noticing that they have enough brand loyalty that they can build an e-commerce marketplace and do that. And what it provides to you is a new channel of revenue. You can get international exposure, and it's very low risk for you because if you sell on it, great. If you don't sell on it, you still have your other e-commerce strategies out there that will work for you. So it's that low barrier to entry. It's very important that you make sure that your e-commerce strategy includes this if you need to. It's just another avenue that you should take and take a look at. A second here. So the next trend that we see out there is mobile commerce. I mentioned it as one of the main drivers out of there as B2C. It also can affect on B2B, and I'll tell you, there's different strategies out there that you can take when you start looking at your mobile commerce piece. And a lot of the trend out there for the strategy is to extend your website to a mobile platform. You're still doing a little bit of responsive web design to make sure that your mobile experience is fitting to that form factor. But at the same time, it's still the same website and the same pieces of information. Yes, that is important, and you get that ability to sell on a different channel by providing that within your mobile experience. But where we're truly seeing the benefit is that augmented strategy. The augmented strategy takes it and says, okay, yeah, great. The website is out there. I've got my e-commerce portal that I can sell on with desktops and laptops. But when it comes to mobile experience, the tablet or the device or an iPhone or an Android, it's a different experience. I want to make sure that fits that person. So you augment what your e-commerce strategy is to fit that mobile area. And then the last strategy, and this one is very, very disruptive if you think about it. It's called the transform strategy. And the transform strategy, if you think about it in terms of who's done this before, it's the Airbnbs, the Ubers of the world. They disrupt the traditional way of basically generating revenue and make mobile a different experience completely in terms of that revenue model, and they basically turn the revenue model on its head. They disrupt that marketplace, and because of this, they are sometimes leaders in that space. Sometimes they're it doesn't work. You can look at Groupon out there that try to transform that marketplace and build out, and yeah, it worked for a long time, and it fizzled out after a while. But there are successes out there, and there's the Ubers and the Airbnbs that we talked about before. The next trend that we're seeing is customer journey analytics, and that's always been brought into play on B2B and B2C, especially within B2B in terms of marketing. I can tell you from being a director of marketing, we talk about customer journey analytics all the time. We always sit down and say, okay, what is our buyer's journey? How does that affect it? And what can we do in terms of content and others, such as this webcast, to provide that? But it's more and more important on the e-commerce side, figuring out the channels that occur in that buyer's journey. So to give you an example that's used all the time in the e-commerce space is a customer might go out to a brick and mortar store, look at a product, hold it in his hand, play around with it and say, okay, yeah, this is great. But then as soon as he leaves the store, not buying the product, goes to his mobile device, spend some time researching it, saying, okay, what are the reviews on the product? Where's the best site that I can get the best price from? Is that site reputable? Then taking it by that time, having done that research, gotten home, and then going on their desktop or their laptop and then placing the order. So those multiple channels that just occurred from a brick and mortar to a mobile device to a desktop is where people in the e-commerce space need to spend time trying to figure out what happens in each of those channels and how a consumer is using each. This is not only affected on the B2C side, as in my example, but also on the B2B side, especially in the service industry, where a person might sit there and go, okay, I need, to example, a blogger, right? And what we might do within our space is look up blog posts that on our mobile device and spend some time with trying to find out who the author is of that blog, and then maybe then bring it up on a website and try to contact that blogger. So the B2B space is right for how you provide or how you measure your customer journey and try to see what it entails and how I can optimize it. And of course, the last trend that we're seeing out there, which has been in the B2C space as much for a long time, is now affecting the B2B space, is the social selling. Being able to go and text somebody and say, hey, you know what, I need to place an order for 1,000 widgets. Great, we'll take care of it. Whether it be using Twitter to do that, or maybe Instagram, to be able to sit there and say, I want to take a picture of something that I need, and sending it off to my vendor and saying, okay, let's place an order on this. So that social selling aspect of it and taking care of it is going to be more and more important on the B2B side as well. So we're gonna take a little break here and take a poll and see what kind of information we can get out of you guys. It's more interactive that way. Let me show up the poll real quick here, and then we'll give everybody a few minutes to say yes or no on it. It's a simple question out there. You know, do you plan on redesigning your e-commerce strategy in the next 6 months? You know, it's very simple. Yes or no answer. We'll give everybody a few minutes to answer, and then we'll show up the results and then continue on with the webcast. All right, great. I think we have got everybody answer the poll. So now we'll just basically bring up the poll itself, and so that way you guys can see what happened. So let me share this out. So sharing the poll results right now, you guys can see that hopefully. You know, it's interesting. 100% of you guys are doing it, and that's probably why you're in this webcast right now. It's you know, you're looking at what does it take to not only implement or change my e-commerce, but also what trends I should be aware of and what strategies I need to be able to do. And that's probably why you're on this webcast. So thank you very much for answering that question. We'll move on back to the webcast. And talk a little bit about strategy. And instead of going through the circle and talking about the strategy itself, and everybody understands that, and you know, you take what you need from this circle. You don't have to do all of it. You can do some of it. But what I'd love to do is talk about the barriers and make sure that you understand the gotchas that you have to do to when you do build out a strategy like this. And one of the and there's 3 main barriers we're going to talk about today. The first barrier that we're gonna talk about is lack of business alignment. An e-commerce strategy is not just an IT only project. It affects a company as a whole, from sales, in how they sell, to the warehouse and how they ship and make sure that they have enough product, you know, purchasing, to HR to make sure that there's enough people that can take care and fulfill all the orders that might come through your e-commerce strategy. So that's important that you make sure that your team is very cross-functional and there's clearly defined objectives that you want to occur within this e-commerce strategy. So that lack of business alignment is a definite barrier that you need to make sure that you do. The next barrier that I want to talk about, and this is affected by your audit and your business case and your design to somewhat, is the neglect of customer experience. It's very important. I can tell you from my own experience, as well as what we deal with here at Applicor. You know, it's important to take the customer side when you're looking at your e-commerce strategy, and this is very important in the sense of A/B testing. So while assumptions might be made and sales might sit there and go, you know what, this is where the product should be viewed, instead of on the left, you should put it on the right. Well, that's great. A/B test that and put it on both sides in different scenarios and let your customers choose and pick and measure that goal. And then once you've measured it and said, okay, yes, the customers like it on the left side rather than on the right side, we're seeing a lot more people buying from it. That's where you need to to do that and optimize that site and continuously improve it. So that always remember the customer experience first when you start building out your e-commerce strategy. And the last barrier to entry that I want to talk about is the unresponsiveness to change in the conditions, those continuous improvement, the tactical decisions, and to somewhat the design that occurs, not just on your customer side, like we talked about just a few seconds ago, but also on the market side. You have to be able to be ready to adapt and change to market factors. We talked about that with price optimization, right? Weather can be a market factor that affects you. The presidential election could be an issue that affects you. Um, that long-term e-commerce strategy, while it's good and you have to plan against it and make sure that you understand it, should also have the ability to be adaptable and change as it needs to fit what you have in terms of market forces out there. So that's what I'm going to talk about in strategy. I just wanted to bring that up, and you know, also we want to talk about who Applicor is. I thank you for spending some time with us today. Like I said at the beginning of the webcast, but I do want to make sure that you understand who Applicor is and how you can benefit from us as well, not just in terms of thought leaders in terms of e-commerce for distribution, but also what we provide. What we provide is a flexible end-to-end system. It's embedded, so it's a single database of ERP, customer relationship management, warehouse management systems, and e-commerce. And what that is and what the benefit to you is that you're not having to worry about integrations from multiple line of business systems out there. You're not having to sit there and worry about, is my data getting from my CRM system over to my ERP system or even to my e-commerce system? Or am I being able to report against that? You're getting one system, one version of the truth, one database in real time that all these components are accessing. In terms of cloud, everybody understands the cloud benefits out there, but just to reiterate those cloud benefits out there, we are the publishers of the software. We understand our security vulnerabilities. We are the experts on that. We'll take care of the security on that and make sure that only the people that are supposed to access your environment only access your environment, as well as scalability. Like I talked about within the strategy, making sure that you have a cross-functional team. Applicor understands our customers, and our customers talk back and give us feedback and will tell us, hey, you know what, our e-commerce strategy for right now is that we're going to push really hard for Christmas sales. So we need to make sure that we have additional compute power and scalability to make sure that we can handle those additional sales. And we'll take care of that for you, and we'll make sure that that occurs, as well as disaster recovery. We talk about this all the time. Our customers call us up and say, hey, you know what, we had a major snowstorm, this was winter, and it was great to be able to stay at home and still be able to access the environment and place my sales or be able to place my orders or calls to my customers. That's a disaster that can occur all the time. To the even worst case disaster scenarios, a tornado, a hurricane, a flood, that God forbid that happens to you, that your systems are still in place. We'll take care of that disaster, and we'll make sure that you can get up and running as quickly as you can in terms of physical locations and making sure your employees are okay. We'll take care of your systems for you. We also provide one bundled low price. So not only are we providing that embedded one-to-one system, but we make sure pricing is also that way. So you're not nickel and dime to death. So support and services are included within the pricing. So you make sure that we are giving you that simplistic view of what you are getting. How to contact us? Go to applicor.com. definitely go to the website, check us out, make sure that you understand us. There's areas over there to fill out forms, to get demos, or even to talk to sales, or even our phone number and our email address as well. Twitter, you can follow us at Applicore. LinkedIn is linkedin.com/Applicore, as well as Facebook, facebook.com/Applicore3C, and Google+. So thank you very much for giving me your time. I was going to mention that takeaway, that one golden nugget that you should always make sure that you understand after this webcast, right? We spent almost the last 30 minutes talking about information on this. And that's goals. Whatever you do within your e-commerce strategy, whether you use those latest trends, whether you use this strategy that we talked about, always define your goals first. Is it to decrease shopping cart abandonment? Is it increasing market share? Is it increasing visibility of your products to end users or business to business consumers? Always make sure you define those goals and how you want to measure those goals, and that's the most important piece of the puzzle in this webcast. Is look at it and make sure you understand that. So with the few remaining minutes we've got here, I'm going to answer some questions and help you out there. So hopefully I can get through one or two of these questions. The rest of them, obviously, I said we would email you guys answers after this webcast, or if you view the recording that's available, you have additional questions, feel free to email those questions, marketing@applicore.com. We'll take care of those and make sure that you get an answer as well. So the one question that I see out there is about mobile strategy, and we talked about those different strategies that were out there. The question is basically, which one of those strategies do you see having the most bang for the buck? And I can tell you, I definitely think the augment strategy is the one to go after. The augment strategy was that middle strategy. There was extend, augment, and transform. And the reason I think the augment strategy is the right way to go is transform is, yeah, you have that out there. You have those successes of Uber and stuff like that, but they're very rare. And unless you have the most disruptive idea out there and can build against that disruptive idea, more likely than not, you're gonna fail. The extend is out there, but studies have shown that people like to see a different experience on mobile versus your website, and so that experience, that research that's been done, does help with the augment strategy, and hopefully that answers your question out there. So I don't want to take up too much of your time. Like I said, I'll answer the rest of these questions through email. We'll get back to you as quickly as possible. If you're viewing the recording, like I said, marketing@applicore.com. If you have any questions, feel free to send those questions along, and we'll make sure to respond back to you as quickly as possible. Thank you very much for spending some time with us, and enjoy the rest of your day.